Cool. So welcome, everyone. I think we'll just get started. Hopefully other people drop in whenever they like. And I hope my background is not too distracting for everyone. Okay, let me share my screen. This one here, I reckon. There we go. That looks all right. Okay. Let's make sure that I can see everyone, participants, and chat. And there we go. So welcome everyone to the November evening WordPress Sydney meetup. This is the last evening meetup of the year, the penultimate one for WordPress Sydney as well. So look forward to 2022 in this coming month or so. So tonight, I'm going to be talking about some low-cost ways to drive traffic to your WordPress website. It's a good one to end on for the end of the year. Nothing too difficult in this list. It's just an easy list. Maybe some things you can maybe just check off and do within the December and January holidays, just to try and boost your website traffic a little bit for the new year. So if you are on social media channels, just click buttons. So click subscribe and ding on YouTube. If we're on LinkedIn, happy to connect with you and give me a big thumbs up if you're on Facebook, if you're streaming from the Facebook group as well. So a little bit of an agenda. We try to start on time at 6. We try to finish around about 7, maybe 7:30, depending on how much chat we have. But I don't anticipate too many questions from tonight. For that, we just want to give a bit of a thanks out to our sponsors. Now, we don't really see a lot of our sponsors over the last year and a bit because of the pandemic, but they're still there and they still help us out. They're in the background and, they help us manage our websites and, they're always sharing ideas and they're on Slack as well. So they're very much part of the community. So I just want to give thanks to Kinetics, to WPSyd, to Plesk, to the WordPress Foundation, WordPress Community Support, and Microsoft as well. So Microsoft, they are our venue, Microsoft Reactor venue, and we're having chats with them just now, and hopefully going back to face-to-face WordPress meetups next year, early next year, maybe February or March. And maybe like trying to do a hybrid solution as well. So chatting with them to see if we can still do kind of live stream and also, do the face-to-face meetups as well. So fingers crossed for all that. I'll have a busy December and January trying to organize all that. And talking about next year, I'm kind of looking to expand this team just now. So if you're interested in organizing or helping to organize the WordPress meetup, it doesn't take very much time. I'm just looking for a couple of organizers to help, maybe 2 or 3 hours a month. Just doing things like social postings, maybe just helping out with the comments online here as well. So if that's something that you think you maybe have some time for, you don't have to have done any of that in the past, and just give me a buzz, fill out that form that I've sent in the chat room, and I'll get back to you. So let's dive in. I've got some news for you this month. Let me see if I can copy some of these links. So all these links, I'll paste them in the meetup page and also on the Facebook group as well after the session. So you'll get all these links, so don't worry about those at the moment. But the first bit of news for November is GoDaddy. So GoDaddy has acquired Pagely. So Pagely is one of the big WordPress managed hosting companies. They've been around for quite a while. Actually, they were there before Flywheel. They were there before WPSyd. They've went to like a massive restructuring a couple of years ago as well. So that's a big WordPress managed host. GoDaddy has acquired them as well. So GoDaddy's excited about leveraging this kind of new platform that they have, this kind of big WordPress managed platform for that, and all the WooCommerce stuff that comes with that as well. So I will send an article link for here. So that's that one here for that press release. And then so that's a happy thing. That's a good thing for GoDaddy and to acquire Pagely for that. But then there's a bad thing that happened. So they announced this acquisition of Pagely, and then the next week, it all kind of hit the fan when GoDaddy announced that it had a security breach where it exposed 1.2 million accounts to hackers. So that's the link there. You can read all that in detail. But basically, the company said it discovered an unauthorized party had gained access to its managed WordPress hosting environment, and anything up to 1.2 million users have had their emails and their customer numbers exposed, as well as their admin passwords for both WordPress sites and the platforms like SFTPs, FTPs, and SSL private keys. All this data was stored unencrypted as well. So the hackers had a great time just lifting all that information. So you might want to have a look at a website called Have I Been Pawned? And enter your normal email address. What this website does is it tracks all these big security breaches. And if it finds your email in that particular breach, then it sends you an email to say you've been pawned. So you kind of know that your details are in the hands of a hacker, and then you can go around and change all your passwords and your keys and stuff. But this is a mega security breach. Very embarrassing for GoDaddy, especially after their big announcement the week before about acquiring Pagely. So if you use GoDaddy services, now is probably the time to go and change all your passwords and all your SSL private keys as well to make sure that keeps that all nice and safe. So another thing that happened this month is that WordPress 5.9, now WordPress 5.9, that's the next version of WordPress. We're currently running 5.8.2, I think it is. But WordPress 5.9, it was meant to come out this month. In fact, it was meant to be out at the moment. I think it was the 16th of November. It's been majorly delayed back to January 2022, and there's no particular date for that to be released, but it has been pushed back a couple of months. Now, we all know that WordPress has been embracing this full site editing model. So they've been pushing more of this editing stuff into the WordPress core. And this is kind of what's happened. So a lot of the different components that are trying to put together to bring this full site editing together is not quite there. And they don't want to put it in. They don't want to launch it and then have problems and then just trying to patch it. So they want to make sure they get it right before they release it. So this is why they pushed 5.9 back until January 2022. So if you have a read of that article, and there's actually quite a lot of issues that they've got to resolve before they even get to like the testing stage there. So there's quite a lot to do in there. So I don't expect 5.9 to be with you anytime soon. It's definitely going to be a next year release. Also, talking about hacking as well, WordFence, which is the WordPress plugin, they have noticed a huge increase in attacks to WordPress websites. It's basically increased by 5 times over the past month. And they've actually found that the machines that are targeting WordPress are actually on AWS. So it's not Amazon itself that's attacking WordPress, but it's bad actors, horrible people who are spinning up AWS, EC2, that's Amazon Web Servers, specifically just to attack WordPress. So they're looking at attacking vulnerabilities in plugins, vulnerabilities in old versions of WordPress as well, and the usual, which is trying to guess the admin username's password. But they've definitely seen a huge increase in that. They're not quite sure why or who's behind it. But you know, if you don't have a WordPress firewall plugin installed, then now's probably a pretty good time to get one installed. I'd recommend WordFence, but there's iTheme Security and Security as well. You can use one of those. The last one here, the last bit of news is State of the Word. And for those who don't know what State of the Word is, then every year when we have the big US WordCamp, so WordCamp USA, one of the keynotes, one of the first things that Matt Mullenweg, so he's a top chief of Automatic, who run the WordPress open source platform. So one of the first things he gives is what he calls the State of the Word. And that's a bit of a play on the USA, was it called State of the Union address that the presidents give. But he basically just talks about WordPress. He talks about what's happened in the year, but more crucially, he talks about what they have in the pipeline coming forward for the next year. So it's really a glimpse into what their plans are for the next 12 months, and what sort of things they're looking at, what sort of things they're testing as well, and maybe what to expect in WordPress over the next year. So if you are using WordPress for client stuff, if you're really involved in the WordPress community, then this State of the Word is a kind of pretty important thing to watch. You don't have to watch it live, but definitely give it a watch afterwards. Now, it's usually broadcast with WordCamp USA, but this time, for whatever reasons unknown, it's actually being broadcast before WordCamp US. So it's being broadcast on December the 14th. Between 5 and 7 p.m. Eastern time. So that's US Eastern time. So it's probably a really awkward time, probably about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning Australian time for that. So if you're really super keen, you can watch it live. Otherwise, I just usually catch it on the next couple of days when it's recorded. And it'll be up on YouTube and it'll be up on WordPress.tv as well once that's been recorded. So that's the news for November 2021. Quite a lot happened. It's quite funny because nothing much happened last month. And then this month has been a whole huge list of things happening. Okay, so if you want to ask a question, please drop them in the chat. Use hashtag ask. It just makes it easy for me to see the questions. And I'll try and answer them there and then, or circle around to them at the end as well. And again, just a reminder that all the links for these, they'll be available afterwards. And what I do is I curate all the links. I'll put them on the meetup page. I'll put them on the YouTube page, the Facebook group, and all the stuff as well. So you'll get a link to the presentation and a link to all the links as well. So let's drop in. So today I'm going to be talking about 8 low-cost ways, easy ways to drive traffic to your website. And this is something that you could implement just now, or you can take a little bit of time over the next couple of months when the holiday season is starting to kick in, and just look at some of these different areas and maybe kind of boost your traffic to your website. So the first one is called Evergreen Content. Now, I spoke about Evergreen Content a few months ago in one of my WP Quickies. Content marketing, so that's creating content specifically to target people, target audiences, is one of the most effective strategies to market your business to your target audience. Now, Evergreen Content is content that's written and optimized, kind of stay relevant all the time. And drive traffic to your website for months or even years. So this is content that people within your audience, within your niche, within your industry, is kind of going to always feel relevant to them. And so Evergreen Content, it's got no expiry date, or it's kind of relatively no expiry date, and is written around a topic that people are always going to feel interesting and always going to find relevant as well. And one of the ways it's so good, it's so effective, is because it's really cheap, because it's only really your time to create the content and publish it. So it doesn't cost any money, it doesn't cost any adverts or anything like that. It's just really only your time and effort. So it's one of the cheapest and one of the most effective ways of really kind of driving content to your website. So some examples of Evergreen Content topics are things like how to make WordPress go faster. It doesn't matter anyone coming to your website, that's going to be on their top lists always. So if it's advanced people, or if it's new people, if it's people after 3 years that you've written this article, it's still going to be relevant. Everyone's always wanting to know how to make WordPress go faster. Other things are topics like how to optimize a website for search engine optimization, or you can be more specific. You can say how to optimize WooCommerce for search engine optimization. That's a biggie one as well. And it's going to constantly attract people and bring them to your website and bring more traffic to your website. But other kind of general things, kind of moving away from WordPress. So if you're in a different kind of niche or different industry, evergreen topic examples could include things like how to lose weight, how to different ways to cook eggs, how to keep fit at home without having to pay a gym membership, generate passive incomes, how to teach your kid to swim effectively without paying for lessons, all the sort of things there, things that people are really looking for all the time. It's always relevant, and you're always getting people, having a look at that content for that. So those are kind of examples of evergreen content topics that are kind of very specific to a niche or industry. They don't really expire over time and are great for your website, real great for traffic, bringing in traffic to your website. Now, before you go and write a whole heap of evergreen content, here's some examples of topics that would not be classified as evergreen. So things like statistics over a particular period of time. So maybe, for example, let's see, vaccination rates. So we're talking about COVID. Vaccination rates, for the first half of 2021. That's really only specific, to that particular period. Maybe next year it might be a little bit relevant, but certainly 2023, 2024 is not going to be really relevant at all for that. So things that are likely to change in the future is not good for evergreen content. Announcements and news articles as well. Announcements and news articles are usually very tied to a particular date and time. So those wouldn't qualify as good evergreen content. And things like content that's focused on current but maybe temporary trends. And so things like COVID-19 and maybe things like sports events like the Olympics, for example. Yes, it's relevant for a bit of time, but it kind of fades away after maybe 6 or 8 months or a year or 18 months and things like that. So those are examples of things that are not good for evergreen content for those. Many digital marketers, they favor writing evergreen content because it's relatively easy. As I said, it's low cost as well, and it's a great way for bringing in traffic to a website. And if written properly, the content is always going to generate interest, and that's what we want. It's going to be a +1 for bringing in traffic, because it's always relevant. And it's going to be a +1 for SEO as well. You're adding more content onto your website. It's relevant to everyone and new people that's coming in, and Google is going to see that. Google's going to see people going into your website, hitting this particular content, and that's going to boost it as well, which is again going to help your traffic. So it's kind of this kind of cycle that's going to help you boost your traffic. Now, evergreen content is designed to target organic traffic to your website. So we're talking about the free stuff. So we're not talking about adverts at all. It's just the free stuff, the natural stuff that people are searching for in Google. That's where this evergreen content is going to pop up, pique their interest, and people click through for that. Now, from the actual content itself, evergreen content helps you to boost your expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. And that's called your EAT or EAT score on Google. And it's a really important metric. And it's part of the search engine algorithm. So the more people who are trusting your articles, the more people are looking at it and forwarding it and linking to it, it's going to build that trustworthiness as well. And that trustworthiness is going to then show it to more people, which is going to build your expertise as well. So the stronger your EAT, your EAT score is, theoretically, the higher your best articles will rank, and that's going to generate more traffic and boost your EAT score further. It's kind of a self-fulfilling loop. So you want to make sure that your content is really, really good, really specific, better than everyone else's as well. Now, I like to use a tool called answerthepublic.com. I think it's a great website. I'll copy the link in there in the chat. So this site tracks top search terms that people are searching for. For example, enter some keywords that you're going to write an article about. Maybe add some keywords about your niche or your industry. For this particular example here, I've chosen cook eggs. And you can see a whole range of searches categorized by how, who, when, why, and which. And this is stuff that people are actually typing in. And this great website, it keeps this stuff relevant. So if people are not looking for this particular stuff, it will drop off this website. So what you're looking at here is actual stuff that people are searching for right now. And so here's some of the results. If you kind of look around, you can see like how to cook eggs for ramen, how to cook eggs in a microwave, can you cook eggs in an air fryer, all that sort of stuff. This particular website is really, really good. Put in a few keywords and it gives you the exact kind of search terms that people are searching for. And that could become one of the cornerstones for your evergreen content. So targeting popular search intents, it kind of makes sure that your content has a good foundation because people are looking for that stuff right now. So if you want to watch a little bit more about this kind of evergreen content, I've covered a fair bit just now, didn't mean to do too much. You can watch one of my WP quickies where I go into this whole evergreen content a little bit more in depth, but let's just put that aside. So this is tip number 1 for driving more traffic to your website is create some evergreen content. Tip number 2. Excuse me, I've got a drink of tea. Using social media. So get social. Using social media to drive traffic to your website is a really powerful tool, and it does work. However, mastering social media takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of patience and a lot of planning as well. It's definitely not going to be an overnight win. So my top tips for using social media to drive your traffic to your website is to get to know your target audience really, really well. I know that a lot of people say this, but I also know that a lot of people don't spend enough time, figuring out exactly who their target audience is. Because if you're generating content if you're trying to appeal to content, if you're not writing content that the people it's relevant for, if you're not writing content that's going to help them, if you're not writing content that appeals to any problems, then you're just not going to gain any traction with that audience. So you need to really, really know them. You need to know, what they need, what the aspirations are, what their problems are as well. I need to produce content that they're going to consume and come back for time and time again. Now, tips and tricks or how-to as well, content works really, really well on social audiences, as does content that helps them with their problems and specific issues for that niche or for that industry as well. So be careful to build up a loyal audience first. So a good audience, a good following first, before kind of marketing to them, before sending them offers and contents to your website. Otherwise, it's going to come across as a little bit more aggressive marketing, a little bit salesy. So, make sure you shower them with plenty of love, plenty of free stuff, plenty of irrelevant stuff within your particular niche before you go kind of targeting that audience for kind of marketing and then sending them off to your website. That's quite important. Otherwise, you'll find that following trail off quite a bit if they figure you're being too aggressive in your marketing. So I would recommend that you master a single social channel first before moving on to another. Otherwise, you're going to spread yourself too thin and end up spending too much time curating content and managing all the different feedback from across all the different socials as well. That's a mistake that I made a couple of years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago now. I decided to set myself up on all the social media channels, and I was pinging content out left, right, and forward. And you got replies, and you're trying to send feedback to people, and it was unmanageable just for myself. So I decided to just concentrate on one and build that up. And then once that was finished, I could move on. Once it was ticking along nicely, once that was mastered, and then I could move on to another one. So I've been building my YouTube audience at the moment with my kind of weekly WP Quickies WordPress videos, broadcasts for those, and it's been working well. So I post regularly, which is something you need to do on social media, post regularly, usually at the same time and often as well. So people will get to expect a timeline, they get to expect content is coming, and they'll turn up for that. If you're posting ad hoc here and there, that's not such a good strategy. You need to be consistent. And of course, that's going to require planning as well. So what I do is I tend to plan out maybe 4 or 5 weeks of content, and then I'll spend a couple of days, I'll curate that content, and I'll just put it on a drip schedule as well. So it's going out consistently at the same time, it's going out to the same audience, it's being relevant as well. So Beata is asking a question. When do you know that you have mastered a social media channel? That's a great question. I think once your following is starting to grow organically, so I know at the very start, when you start up a social media channel, you're constantly watching, you're constantly refreshing. You've got one new person, great. You got another person, that's super. But once you start getting 10 people a week, once you start getting 50 people a week, once you start getting 100 people a week building up, then your social channel's got that momentum going forward for that. And you know that the content, is starting to hit something that's relevant. If you've got a really slow growth, if you're just getting 1 or 2 extra people a month, then you're not speaking to that audience. You're not mastered that channel. You're not speaking to them directly. So you're really looking for a good organic growth of maybe like 25, 50, 100 per month. And then you know that you're speaking their language, and they know that you've mastered that particular account. And then you can start. No, don't stop there, of course. Keep going, but then once you've got that organic growth rate that's coming in, that's trickling every month, then you can focus your plans on the next social media channel and do the same for there. Keep going on the other one, so you're going to keep consistently driving content, but you can lift your attention off 100% and you can put it on to the other social media channel and start building that up the same way as you did the first one. So that's a great question. Thank you very much for that. A few examples here. Is someone asking a question?
I was thinking finishing the salad, having something light.
Okay. I'll just put people on mute this time. You can ask questions during chat if you like. So Pinterest, so still talking about social. Pinterest, if you're using that, it's quite big just now, Pinterest. It's purely based on images, of course. So if your audience is highly visual, this social media channel is going to work really, really well for you. So think about clothing. If you're in like the clothing industry, showing fashion stuff, that appeals really directly to the audience. As to things like beauty and cosmetic products and food as well. They grab a lot of attention really, really quickly. So if that's your particular niche, if that's your particular industry, then Pinterest or like a business account on Pinterest, and you need a business account because that shows you all the metrics in the dashboard, that would probably be a great starting choice for you. You know, if you're trying to present your content visually, if you're a photographer or if you're in the arts or something, that'd be a fantastic medium for you to start in. And Instagram as well. Instagram, of course, is highly visual as well. It's kind of based on photo-based content. But I find it slightly easier to engage with people on Instagram versus Pinterest. So Pinterest is very good for the pure visual content. But having a chat with someone on Pinterest, having feedback on Pinterest is kind of a little bit more difficult, I find, than Instagram. I find Instagram's got a more organic reach for it. So I kind of use Instagram more than I do Pinterest, but I can certainly see the appeal of Pinterest from a visual point of view as well. And of course, Facebook is the big dominant social media. So if you're looking to get started using socials to drive traffic to your website, Facebook is probably a good place to start. They've got a few billion people on there. Facebook groups are easy to join. There's going to be a group for your niche or industry, and if there isn't, definitely start one. But you know, it's to have a look around all the groups, find one that's relevant to you, that's relevant to your audience. Join the group, say hello, you know, get to know people, feed some content, relevant content in there. But make sure you abide by the rules, the Facebook group rules when posting, and especially when posting external links and salesy content, because that's a quick way for you to get booted out of that group and banned if you're like consistently, you know, selling your stuff. But definitely, you know, if you're giving help, you're giving away free content, you're really helping people, it's a great way to build your authority and trust as well using those social medias. And that will help to drive traffic back to your website. Okay, moving on. Number three, so my tip number three is creating a podcast. Now, podcasts have taken off like wildfire in the last couple of years, sparked, I guess, by the lockdowns everyone's experienced due to the pandemics. I'm planning to release a podcast early next year, and I feel it's the next step in the evolution of my content and my business. But running a podcast isn't for everyone. It does require a lot of upfront expenses. It needs a good quality microphone. It needs some recording equipment as well, and probably something like maybe like a little mixing desk or something like that, just to make sure you know that your broadcast is of the best quality and you're putting all the stuff and the content together in a really high quality way. So there isn't like an upfront cost for that. It also takes time to plan and produce high quality podcasts. You don't really just want to do podcasts just for the sake of it. You want to make sure that you're targeting your audience, that you're giving them relevant information, and you want to build that following for that. So you really got to need to make sure that you plan all your topics, plan the content, plan the type of information that you're going to be telling these people, you're going to be selling these people, you're going to be helping these people with. So I'm in the planning stage at the moment, and I need to get a good balance between my time, my effort, and the quality of content that I want to produce. And again, I am looking to maybe do about a month or maybe 2 months worth of podcasts at a time. So curate that content, spend a few days to record all those episodes, get all that stuff right, produce it, mix it, and just get it scheduled to drip out for that. So I'm in that stage at the moment. So I can tell you it does take quite a lot of planning in advance for that. And it's going to take a bit of time recording and mixing and changing some things around as well to get the end result. But again, podcasts, they're super popular at now. And if you do gain a huge following on podcasts, it's going to really help to drive traffic back to your website, because you can start to offer them content, you can start to offer them courses, you can start to offer your following products and services based on what you know, the questions that are asking you after the podcast. Okay, so tip number 4. is write attention-grabbing headlines. Now, I love this headline. It's one of the most famous headlines from the UK, from a UK newspaper. It's not particularly credible. UK newspaper, The Sun, but you know, it's one of the most popular ones that I remember when living over in the UK. Now, the headline is Freddie Starr, who was a stand-up comedian and he was on telly quite a bit. Freddie Starr ate my hamster. Okay, now this was splattered across all the media and everyone was talking about it for ages. So of course there's more backstory to this. I know he didn't really eat a hamster, but the power of that headline is fantastic. It really did go viral. It was funny, it was relevant, it was curious, it was weird. It had all those kind of notes that just made it kind of explode. And that's the kind of stuff that you're looking to do. Try and do like sensational, not lying, not trying to lie, but sensational topics. Use some really good creative words, use some powerful, really words for that to try and get across the best title, the sexiest title, the most intriguing title that you can for your content, your blog posts, your podcast ideas, just to try and stir that interest as well. So again, you don't want to completely lie. And this article kind of takes it on a whim there, but it does explain in the article. So don't outright lie just to be outrageous, but try and find a spin on your headlines that's going to make them super interesting, maybe funny, maybe relevant, and maybe shocking as well. So the fantastic guy called Neil Patel, you might have heard of him, is really into SEO, is really into content marketing as well. So he's got a blog post on his website called the Step-by-Step Guide to Writing Powerful Headlines. And it's really, really, really good. And it's worthwhile you kind of reading that. It doesn't depend on what type of content you're creating, if it's blog posts, if it's videos, if it's podcasts. This is really, really relevant content. And he goes down all the different things that you should consider what to put in your title. It's going to make it effective. It's going to make it pop. It's going to make it stand out, not just to people, but also to Google as well. So it's a really worthwhile read for that, the step-by-step guide. And there's this one here. There's another article from OptinMonster. And they've got a couple of plugins that kind of more deal with landing pages and Google Analytics. But they've got this cracking blog post called Why These 21 Headlines Went Viral and How You Can Copy Their Success. And it just gives a further 20 odd lists of types of titles that people have found really intriguing or shocking or great or have kind of picked up on. So the first one with Neil Patel, it's a step-by-step guide. It's kind of more technical on how to build your headline. Whereas the OptinMonster blog post, it kind of really does show some examples of some really, really good viral headlines that maybe you can take a spin on for your own content. Number 5 is post to LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn is vastly underused as a traffic driving engine. Most people nowadays still think it's only for posting your CV and getting jobs. But LinkedIn is a huge traffic source. And unless your target audience is purely and utterly 100% low-level consumer driven, then you're going to be able to target people on LinkedIn with your specific content. So 25% of all my monthly traffic comes from my LinkedIn posts. So please don't underestimate it as a social platform. Video at the moment is absolutely king on LinkedIn. There's not a lot of people doing really relevant video content. Most of it's poll-based. Most of it's kind of just little snippets. But people doing video that are really giving relevant information, that's really highly watched. And the LinkedIn algorithm at the moment is picking that up and pushing that onto people's feeds as well. So if you didn't consider LinkedIn as a good way to generate traffic to your website in the past, it's definitely worthwhile looking at now, especially curating video content to push that traffic back to your website. Now, for LinkedIn, you need to make sure that you post quality content that helps people. Don't push marketing stuff because the algorithm will push you out. Don't push content that's driving people directly to your website via a link. Because LinkedIn, like all other social platforms, they want you to stay on their platform. So if you are pushing content to LinkedIn, if you're pushing blog posts to LinkedIn, if you're pushing video to LinkedIn, make sure you're just posting that content in the main window and then follow up with your URL to your own website or your landing pages in the comments, because LinkedIn doesn't care about what you put in the comments, but it certainly will care if you're loading an external URL into that main content. So there's a great tip for LinkedIn, and I've measured this. I've done lots of posts with the links in and lots of posts without the links in. The ones with the links in, they don't get shared half as much as the ones that I post that don't have the external links directly from a website in that main content as well. So as well as quality content, and make sure that it's relevant content. And now the LinkedIn audience, it's not TikTok, it's not Instagram, it's not Facebook. They're not going to tolerate cat and food pictures. Or what you're doing on your Saturday afternoon stroll in the park. It's still very much business and consumer related. So it's got to be relevant, it's got to be cool, it's got to be quirky, it's got to be useful content and not just your snaps of what you're doing on your holiday. So my tips for success with LinkedIn is optimize your personal profile. Because when someone reads a really good article, well, the first thing they do is click on your profile. And how do I know that? Well, I've got a LinkedIn Pro account, and I can actually measure, when I push out content, I can see that my increase in views is like 10 or 15 times. So I know that people are coming into my profile directly from the content that I'm pushing out in LinkedIn. So make sure you optimize your personal profile, have a nice picture of yourself, have an explanation of what you do, what you can provide, and again, a link to your website. And that's another way that you can drive stuff to your website is through your LinkedIn profile. Make sure you join groups or start a group as well. Again, if one is not there for your niche, definitely start a group. But yeah, join groups, get to know people, answer questions. Again, that's increasing your trust, and people are going to click on your profile for that. Create a company page as well. And if you are creating a company page, make sure you post on it as well. So just create a company page and leave it hanging. Make sure that you're posting your blog content, offers, content, training, that sort of stuff available on your company page. And make sure you share often as well. So again, with LinkedIn, I've tested the algorithm. If you're not consistently posting all the time, then your view drops down. The algorithm kind of just drops your content down, and it's not pushed onto as many people's feeds as well. But if you're pushing out content regularly, once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, at the same time, then that's going to affect the amount of times that it then pushes your content over into people's news views. It really does help if you're sharing often. And last tip for LinkedIn is to make sure you republish your content as well. So don't just send one copy of your content away and just leave it. Because LinkedIn, like any other social media, there's lots of other people around the globe, and you'll generally get 3 lots of people logging into LinkedIn. So you get people in the US will log in at a particular time. You get people in Europe will log in at another time, and then you get people in Australasia and Asia who log in. So you've got like kind of 3 big lots of viewers are kind of logging in, over that kind of 8-hour period. 3 8-hour periods in a day. So I would say at least post your content 3 times, maybe not 3 times in a row, but maybe, push your content one day, wait a couple of days, push it again, and then push it again. So 3 copies of your content at different times, just to make sure you're getting that spread of everyone across on LinkedIn. That's certainly a strategy that's worked for me. Okay, we're getting there. Just a couple more left. Number 6 is link internal content and make sure you're using related posts as well. Now, internal content isn't just important for Google and SEO. It's also an important way for your website visitors to find new content and stay on your site longer. And the more people that stay on your website for longer, that's going to boost your SEO rankings, and that's going to be better for your traffic, because your links are going to appear higher in the search engine results. So the more internal website content that you have linked together, then the more entries are going to appear in Google. That's going to increase your chances of being found and finding that kind of slice of that traffic for your particular niche or industry. Now, linking your internal content together, it seems like an easy thing to do, but it kind of really isn't. So ideally, you're going to need some type of content tracking system so you can keep track of all your posts, your page titles, your main keywords, and who you're targeting as well. So once you have that in place, then you can kind of track the relevant content and link them together. So if you're posting something new, then you can look at your spreadsheet, you can look at your tool, and you can find relevant bits of content you've already posted and link those together. You definitely don't want to be linking just random posts together. It needs to be relevant, something that somebody would find useful and relevant to then click through and read some more about that. Now, there's some good online tools that's going to help you find your content and categorize it. So I use Screaming Frog. So I've got a yearly subscription to Screaming Frog, but there's also online services like Ahrefs and SEMrush as well. I'll just copy those names in the chat if anyone hasn't heard of those. So Ahrefs and SEMrush is kind of the two biggest SEO content tools on the market just now. Yes, they probably cost a little bit, but it's worthwhile because trying to do this content analysis on your own, it can take a lot of time. But it's certainly worthwhile visiting your internal content, making sure that things are linked together, and making sure that you're offering people who are reading your content some related information as well. And there's heaps of related posts in WordPress plugins that you can get. Jetpack is probably the most popular one. So if you've installed Jetpack on your website, some people like it, some people loathe it. But regardless, if you install Jetpack on your WordPress website, you can disable everything else, but they do have a very, very good related posts algorithm that can show relevant information when people's reading your blog post. That's number 7, second last one, YouTube. So use video in your content. YouTube is the second largest search engine, right behind Google. They're owned by Google. As well. Now, video content is also being consumed 200 times more than the written word just now. So people are really loving video at the moment. If you have a video alongside with your regular blog posts, the video is going to be consumed more, it's going to be watched more than people scrolling through your blog. You're always going to get people scroll through your blog that are looking for the details. They're looking for code, they're looking for URLs to cut and paste, which you can't do from within video. So the two complement themselves really, really well. But people always watch your video content first, and then they'll consume the blog. So the two really work well together. And people, they're very visual beings. We are. Video, it usually trumps a long read content any day. However, just like podcasts, creating video content can be a bit expensive to start out. Now, most mobile phones have great quality cameras nowadays. You've got your iPhones, you've got your Samsung Galaxies for there, and they take marvelous videos. They can take 4K videos, 8K videos even, I'm sure just now. But it's not just about the video quality. You also need very, very good audio quality to accompany a video. Now, people will watch a bad video with good quality sound, but not the other way around. They're not going to look at this 4K video if the sound's all kind of crackly and it's moving around, they've got like scratching and stuff like that. That's just too distracting, and they're going to stop. So if you are looking to use video, and I really do urge that you do look into video, just make sure that you invest in a really good quality microphone. You can get some really good lapel microphones on eBay. You can get a little Bluetooth one as well that clips onto your shirt that then links in with your mobile phone. So you got those together, or you can invest in a really good quality desk mic. I've got a Rode Podcaster with a big boom arm here for that. Absolutely fantastic quality. One of the best investments that I've made a long time ago. I actually bought it about 4 years before I started using it. So it costs about 300 Australian dollars, maybe 300-400 Australian dollars, with the boom arm as well. But I've been using it pretty much constantly, pretty much daily, for the past 2 to 3 years. So it's a really good investment. So if you are going to move into video, and of course I do suggest that you do, just make sure that you invest in a really good quality microphone that's going to take out that hiss. It's going to take out that crackling as well, because they'll listen to your video, but if the sound quality isn't good, then they're going to skip on that. Last one is targeting long tail keywords. So unless you have a very new niche, a very small, not small niche, very specific, unique niche. Keywords nowadays are really difficult and expensive to target in SEO and for content marketing as well. So consider using long tail keywords rather than the more popular and maybe obvious ones in your industry or niche. Now, a long tail keyword is a phrase that's generally made up of 3 to maybe 5 words. So since these keywords are kind of more specific than general terms, they're going to allow you to target more niche demographics as well. They're going to get a little bit more specific, and that's kind of what you want as well. So going back to the Answer the Public website, you can see some of the questions that people are asking. How do I do this? Why does this do that? Where can I get? So that's called intent. So when someone's typing something into a web browser, searching into a web browser, they're searching for intentional. They're looking for something, looking for information, looking to buy something, they're looking to get some knowledge about something, looking to see how much something costs. That's intent on the user's behalf. So you want to really, for long tail keywords, you want to target that intent on these long tail keywords. So how can I, how do I, where can I, best types of most low cost things, where do I go to, how do, that sort of stuff there is long tail keywords, where you're not just using things like plumber or electrician. You're saying, you know, things like low cost electrician in Sydney, or specialist H1 electrician in Sydney, or electricians specializing in solar panel installations. That's getting more specific. So that's the type of keywords that you should maybe be looking at when you're generating your content for your website, rather than just use these kind of really high level, really expensive, really crowded, really well used and dominated like single keywords. Look at maybe things that are like more long tail keywords. For example, I've got an Amazon Alexa downstairs, so don't go shouting out. But Amazon Alexa, the way that you interact with Alexa, you're asking her questions, you know, Alexa, is it going to rain today? Alexa, what are the chances of it raining today? Alexa, how much UV index is going to be around today? Alexa, where's my Amazon stuff? That sort of things. Those are kind of the long tail keywords that you're more conversational with someone, rather than just those kind of single blurted out keywords like rainfall, UV index. You know, people don't understand that. So go after more conversational, more long tail keywords when you're generating your content. And again, there are plenty of online tools that help you can find long tail keywords within your niche, within your industry. So things like KW Finder, keywordfinder.com, again, Ahref and SEMrush, they're probably the top tools at the moment. They maybe offer a little bit of a free keyword search, but most of them are a paid service. But, you know, if you're going to serious about driving content to your website, if you're serious about curating content that people are really going to value, they're really going to look after, that's going to increase your SEO, it's going to be picked up by Google as well, it might be worth investing in one of these tools, maybe at the lowest plan to start off with, you know, and just see how much value that brings in. And of course, Black Friday, Cyber Monday is on just now, so now is the best time to have a look at some of those tools and get some good deals locked in for those. Okay, I didn't fill that one out. Sorry, too long. Didn't read. I didn't read it. It was too long. So, so that's my summary of 8 low-cost, easy ways to drive more traffic to your website that you guys can start using just now, or you know, just pick 1 or 2 of them. Pick them off the next few weeks, you know, once you're chilling out in December, you know, once your traffic has died down, once you're on holiday or got a little bit of time on your hands, and just, you know, pick 1 or 2 of them and just, you know, try and implement those suggestions and drive a little bit more content to your website. So I hope that works for you guys. I didn't want to do too much traffic. I didn't want to go into too much depth. I hope I've got the balance a little bit right, to give you some ideas about how you can implement those in your own WordPress websites, in your own industries, in your own niche, and try and get your website traffic up a little bit for 2022. So thank you very much. If you've got any other questions, you can drop them in the chat at the moment. I'm just going to flip through a couple of slides and then I'll flip back onto your lovely people's faces. So here's a shout out for WP Australia. If you're looking to find out any of the meetups that are happening in Australia this year and next year, click on there. There's a big green button on the top left that tells you all the meetups, find a meetup. And there's also a link to Slack. Here's our Slack channel here. And we kind of hang out in there, we chat to each other, get to know each other, ask questions, answer questions as well. But we mostly just kind of have a laugh and hang out. So it's a good place to go and just get to know people in the WordPress industry. For those, here's me as well. I'm happy to connect with you guys. I'm mostly on LinkedIn these days under Developer Will. That's probably going to change next year. I think I'm probably going to go with Will Brown _AU, and that's going to make it consistent with my Instagram and my Twitter as well. And just lastly, before I flick over to your faces again, the last one of this year, so last WordPress Sydney thing for this year is going to be a Zoom chat. For this is going to be on the 2nd of December. It's a Thursday. It's going to be an afternoon, lunchtime, 1 p.m. Zoom chat. And I want to be chatting about your wins from 2021. If you want to tell me about what was great in 2021, what really worked for you in 2021. And also let's have a little chat about goal settings for 2022 as well. So that's next week. And we'll kind of round off the whole WordPress Sydney meetups with a little bit of a Zoom call, a little bit of a chat over lunchtime, not too long. And then that'll be that. I'm going to stop sharing just now. Guys, if you've got any questions, you can drop them down in the chat, or you can unmute yourself, put yourself on cam, ask away, ask me anything, ask me about driving traffic to your website, ask me about WordPress stuff. I'm here for a little bit. Otherwise, I will let you get back to your dinners and your evenings. So let me know. I'll be here for a few minutes. Anyone at all? Must have been a good meetup. I've showered you with too much information. Jared says thank you. Oh, thanks very much, Jared. I appreciate that. I appreciate the feedback. Okay, guys, if there's no questions, then that's fine. It allows everyone to get on with their evenings. Hope you enjoyed the presentation. Healy says, thanks for the information, Will. No question from me, but look forward to the next one. Fantastic. Look, I'm really looking forward to WordPress meetups in 2022. Looking forward to still doing the WP quickies, but looking forward to getting some face-to-face, or what they're now calling IRL, in real life meetups. Get those going again, fingers crossed for that for next year. So stay tuned to the WordPress meetup page, stay tuned to the Facebook group as well, and I'll make some announcements on there. Again, I'll post the links and the presentation up on Facebook and on the meetup page as well, so you guys can have all those lovely links and be able to see the slides. So thank you very much, guys. I will check in with you on the 2nd of December for the last one, the lunchtime quickies, where we'll just have a little Zoom chat, a little Christmas get together. Stay safe, guys, and I'll speak to you then. Ciao.